Mahendra Singh Dhoni's family office invested in us. We have such a great legend and leader.
Getting someone like him on the cap table is amazing.
So how did you guys get into construction and real estate development?
People will value the experience we're able to provide.
One business is in a stage of scaling from 1,000 crores towards 3,000.
Now, whose responsibility is it to ensure that there are no fire outbreaks? Is that the builder's legal responsibility?
Fix this first and then we'll take responsibility.
So we're pioneering facility management consulting.
One thing that you hate about Mumbai real estate?
The demand side is super strong in Mumbai. There's no one else doing this in the market today.
Approvals.
I wish approvals happen in a single window clearance, but that's not the case.
It takes me 5 years to construct a meaningful tower in Mumbai.
I think the customer today cares about experience, right?
Hi guys, I'm super excited to be part of this episode of the Real Estate Show with Mayank because I think it's the first time I've had two self-made brothers on this couch. Thank you so much Rushabh and Sahil Vora for doing this. These are just two brothers who started SILA and now their facility management arm itself is doing about 1100 crores per year and their construction and development arm is doing about 350 crores per year. But what's most important is that these two brothers are self-made and have started this on their own about 14-15 years ago. So let's just learn from them, right? Thank you so much for doing this, guys.
Pleasure being here.
This is awesome, man. So I would first want to talk about your services business because you guys are doing a bunch of things. What is facility management to begin with? It's a very fancy word, but can you dumb it down for me? Just assume I'm a 10-year-old and just explain to me what is facility management.
So to keep it simple, maintenance of your building or office would include everything from security as you enter to cleaning the office or the building every day to making sure your electrical systems are working, your plumbing, you're getting water, your facade is being cleaned regularly, your horticulture, your garden is maintained, your pool, your clubhouse is maintained. So anyone taking care of the asset after or a building after it's been constructed, all that work is done by a facility manager and that's what we do.
Interesting. And how do you guys get into facility management?
So interesting story. We started selling CCTV cameras in 2010 and then the office that we went to sell the cameras to said, you're installing the cameras, can you also manage our security? From that, they said, can you also do the cleaning? So when you're starting a business and, we were 25 and 23 at the time, any business is good business. And so we started doing cleaning, maintenance, security along with the camera. So that's how we started. As we continued and, took one office, another office, we started to realize that the market size is actually very large. And India is going from a stage of, or was and continues to do so, go from an unorganized method of managing facilities with your local jhadu pocha or your local operator to the organized. That shift was happening rapidly, which means the market size kept increasing. And we kind of identified that and, that's how we got started and then continued to slowly grow that business over the last 15 years.
Interesting. So how do you, because facility management kind of includes a lot of things related to maintenance, but how do you define your scope of work? Like, is there something within this sphere that you all don't do?
So we don't do security guarding directly. That's one piece we don't do. When we take on contracts to manage a full building, we take that on and we outsource that. So there are parts that we outsource. We outsource part of our clubhouse operations. In some cases, we outsource our horticulture. Our core parts that we do is the management layer of the main managers and the engineers managing the building, the cleaning and the electrical plumbing stuff of the building. And the other part that is now becoming more and more important is managing sustainability, so environment, health, safety, ensuring that the building is digitized and managing the whole digital transformation of those buildings or offices. So that's kind of what we do in-house. So what we really outsource is the security and some of the smaller ancillary services.
Also, you have a material handling equipment business as well. Can you talk about that as well?
Sure. So I think, a few years ago, we looked at ourselves and said we manage now 250 to 300 million square feet. This is 40% of that space that we manage is in factories. So factories, warehouses, manufacturing plants. So we said we're already providing services to them, to these large factories. How do we gain more of the wallet share of, that they're outsourcing? So we began wet leasing. So there's renting forklifts. So there's a wet lease and a dry lease. A wet lease is when you provide a forklift on rent with a driver and operator. And a dry lease is where you just rent out a forklift. So we tied up with Neil Kamal, who make plastic chairs and furniture. They also happen to be amongst the largest suppliers of EV forklifts in the country, right? And we tied up with them where they're our main core supplier, and then we provide these forklifts on lease to tons of manufacturing plants all over the country. So what we're doing is we're expanding the bouquet of services that we provide to our existing customers, given that we've got a reach in, every state in the country with about, 12,000 people working at different manufacturing plants all over.
Speaking of services, I was going through your brochure and I found out that you're also into food services. How is that like a forward integration to your service business? Like, why do you get into that?
So interesting. So in 2022, we made an acquisition of a company called Forbes Facility Services. This was owned by Shapurji Palanji, and they are primarily or were primarily in the business of industrial facility management, so at factories, and industrial catering and food services. So when we acquired the business, we bought both the facilities and the food business came along with it. They are today the third largest organized player in the food services and catering space. So that's basically how we, started the business. And now we've grown that business significantly. We've gotten into doing a lot, servicing a lot of schools, hospitals, college campuses. And we're now making a foray into food courts in commercial offices and stuff like that. In our business, right? Facility management and food actually go hand in hand for a lot of companies.
Why is that?
Both non-core activities where admin or the real estate head, actually a lot of this comes under admin. So it's providing the FM and the food. Just the same, I guess it's the same customer, the same admin manager giving the contract for both. There are a lot of companies that do this globally at scale, and fits in well. So
now if you could just compare all your service businesses, right? Your facility management, material handling, equipment, food services, real estate advisory. And also I'll also come to Sahil with the whole development and construction angle. Out of all these businesses, what is the most fun?
So, they all actually fall under at least the facilities and material handling service businesses. They're all very annuity in nature. So when you look at it from a business standpoint, they compound well. So that's the fun part of it, right? Compounding is this.
Is there also predictable income in these businesses?
Yeah, so that's what it is, right? So it's annuity in nature. These contracts are, at least 1 year, but many of them are even 5-year contracts. So, that's the fun part of it, is that you have a customer, you can mine that customer, and you have visibility with that customer on 31st March when the year ends, and then 1st April you reset, and then you incrementally grow. So I think all the businesses, and Mayank, this hasn't happened overnight, right? It's 15 years, as we mentioned. It started with facilities management, then got into real estate advisory, which was a joint venture with a US-based company who had some clients in India and they wanted a local partner. That then morphed into food services and more industrial work with an acquisition, and then more recently on the material handling side, right? So this has organically been built over the last 15 years, and the way we see it over the next 15 is similar, where we'll have a distribution of 500 million to 1 billion square feet of real estate that we touch every day, whether it's on the facilities, material handling, food services. Yeah, I think we're already over 300 million, and by the end of this fiscal year, we'll be touching.
How do you manage 300 million square feet across, I think, 125 cities?
Yeah, so we have a great team, and it's been organic and steady.
It's very workforce and labor intensive, right?
Yeah, it's about 30,000 employees as we speak on payroll, and it's something that we're proud of, because the frontliners are the people we're most proud of at the company. They're delivering the service. We give them an opportunity, to get organized employment and then grow from let's say a janitorial staff to a supervisor and then managers. And we've seen a lot of journeys in the last 15 years of people who've joined us for a security supervisor and could be in our accounts team now, right? So there have been such stories, which is what we're proud of. But the opportunity is to provide organized employment and service real estate, which today as a percent of GDP is only about 7-8%, but we see that doubling in the next 15 years.
30,000 people on payroll. That is wild. I can't manage 50 properly. So you guys must be having a huge HR department.
So it's a reasonable size team, but a lot of tech integration has gone in on the back end, where we're able to monitor, collect data from sites, invoice, payroll, all on a piece of software that we built many years ago called SILA Connect. And that's now par for the course. I'm sure many other companies have these compliance and payroll softwares. But yes, HR is a core function that we look at very closely, because as much as the NPS of customers is important for us with so many employees, it's important to have a pulse of employees and their satisfaction levels at SILA. We've started using some AI in doing this, where there are chatbots talking to our employees on a constant basis and getting a heat map of areas that we can improve, the culture part of SILA, and that's been quite useful with AI. So AI has creeped into a few parts of our business, and the employee journey is definitely one part of it.
Does AI also help you measure the outcome and the efficiency of each employee?
We're working on that. So we're currently working on a project whereby we improve overall efficiency. The cost of people is continuously going up with minimum wages and people getting more and more skilled, which is great. But it also means in order for us to deliver a service at a particular project or a site, we need to work with lesser number of people, to deliver the service given the pricing. So we are working with a company that is helping us make everyone's lives more efficient. So one person can do the work that maybe 1.5 can, whether it's making their processes more efficient or getting robotics in or using data from these technologies that you have in buildings, like a building management system, which we can talk about more later. But yeah, we're working on that.
Can you also talk about your early years, as in when did you decide to get investments, and if you can name a couple of your investors as well?
So we both worked in finance in New York and Singapore respectively, and moved back with not much capital to start. So we had a seed investor, a family friend, who gave us the startup capital. His name is Haresh Mehta, and he was super supportive to us in the early years. And then over time, we had some family offices, like the Piramal family office, the DSP family office. My brother went to INSEAD. Some professors also supported us along the journey. So we've had great support from capital providers along the journey. Some of them have exited with great returns. Some of them still stay on the cap table.
Can you talk about the returns?
Well, that seed investor made, 30-40x his money.
He also backed us at a time when, angel investing was not as institutionalized. So, we're very happy and, appreciative of that support that we got. But yeah, go ahead, finish.
And then in 2019 is when we got our first round of institutional capital. That's when Norwest Venture Partners invested in our services business. And at the same time, we had Samara Capital Group give us capital to start our development journey. And yeah, so it was bootstrapped in nature with some angel investing for the first 8-9 years, and then over the last 5-6 years we've had the partnership with two great institutional investors.
Interesting. Any popular I think I just read an article, I think a couple of months ago, that the Dhoni family also kind of invested in your...
So that happened a few months ago, where Mahendra Singh Dhoni's family office invested in us, where as sportsmen growing up and avid cricket lovers, that was more than the capital from him. It was just being able to get validation that we have such a great legend and leader, more than just his success on the cricket field. Once we got to interact with him and learn more, he's a great reader of people. He's actually a great leader, and I think if he was a businessman, he would crush it in business too.
No, we strongly believe that both of us have played sport. A lot of our senior team are actually good athletes. We believe that sport brings something else to the table, right? You learn how to lose, you learn how to fight, you are that little more, a little more dogged. So getting someone like him on the cap table is amazing. And, thanks to him.
I mean, both of you have been like sportsmen, right? National level squash players, right? How does that kind of discipline translate into entrepreneurship? Like, I would just want you to draw parallels between, sports and entrepreneurship, essentially.
There are multiple, right? I think I'll go first and then he can add, because there's just multiple. One is you learn how to lose, and you lose a lot, especially early on, and then later, and big losses, and you need to know how to come back. So I think sport teaches you that. Second, it's really helped us. We both played on a very successful college squash team called Trinity. Trinity College was a team, and we had people from multiple nationalities, like 13, 14 nationalities. Every one of those students came there. They were the king of their own backyard. They were very good squash players or played for their countries, etc. Now you come there and it's a melting pot where everyone's equal. And the number one in maybe Sweden is now playing number 5 or 6 on our team. How does he work with everyone and understand that, hey, he's not the best anymore? And, so I think what squash taught us a lot is working with a team of diverse individuals. Everyone has their own talent. Everyone has their own, strengths and weaknesses. And it's really helped me with leadership, for sure. I think Sahil as well. So we have a coach over there who's our mentor, and we've applied a lot of those learnings at SILA. But these are two things that really stand out, is how to deal with a diverse set of individuals when you're leading them, and then just learning how not to give up, really.
I think for me, it's one word: grit. In a competitive environment, most people have practiced hard. Most people, have the skill set and talent, but the really true great sportsmen are the ones who show the grit when the chips are down. And I think in entrepreneurship also, there are going to be good days and bad days, and then to be able to firstly yourself have the courage to get up and fight again, but then also motivate the team around you and bring like-minded people. So I think grit is something that definitely. And then one more thing is dealing with pressure. So there are going to be times where there are stressful environments in the business, and the ability to know that everything passes, right?
Have you all had a difficult time with SILA where you kind of actually had to motivate your team like a sportsman, like a Dhoni would on the field?
I'm sure there have been many. COVID was a big challenge where actually it happened at a time when we had raised institutional capital in the previous 6 months. And we had obviously given business plans to the funds that, we will hit XYZ targets. But COVID, took our revenue down by 20% within 6 months, and then that had to make us reset, relearn a lot of things. But then from that point, it's been 10x in 5 years. So we've been able to bounce back. But it definitely was a challenging time, I think, for everyone, not only us singling out, but it was a great learning.
I think COVID taught us risk management, right? It made us understand the importance of risk management. Interesting stat, pre-COVID, about 70% of our business was coming from offices or office parks. About 5 to 7% was coming from manufacturing facilities, and the rest was coming from residential buildings and malls. I think we had to take a step back, and today if you look at our book, we're like 45% commercial office, 40% industrial, and then the rest is residential and retail. I don't think there is no single customer that is more than 2% of our revenue. So what we've done is we've just made it as de-risked, and I think we've understood risk management a lot more. And in any case, you need to build that as you scale. You asked the question about what's fun about the business. It just occurred to me. What makes us having fun here is really today the 4 or 5 businesses that we have, in addition to what Sahil said, each one is at a very different stage, right? One business is in a stage of scaling from 1,000 crores towards 3,000, very different skill set, right? And we've never done that in our lives, so we're learning every day. Another business, material handling, brand new, right? It's a startup. April was our first month. We've had a good startup, and we're hustling and working towards that. Advisory, Sahil is running this business of ours called FM360. There again, new startup. We're leveraging our network to provide consulting services at design to developers to make them design buildings more efficiently, to become more operationally efficient. So I think we've got multiple businesses in different places, and that's the fun, right? So we're learning on how to scale, very different skill set and learnings there, and then startups are a lot of fun. Yeah, going from 0 to 30 is a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And out of these businesses, is there what would be the most difficult business out of these?
All are challenging
it's a concept
in their
of
own
figuring
way.
it out, but
each business has different challenges, and even though they look like 3-4 different businesses, a lot of the places the customer is the same, right? So that's kind of where you get operating leverage. And the way we think about why we've added these businesses is because facilities management is linear growth, right? Where you're adding manpower to get revenue. The other businesses allow us to grow in a non-linear way. So there's been a method to and science to why we're doing this. We do also know that the key to strategy to know what not to do, right? So we don't want to have 10 different businesses, 3-4 businesses that can scale is kind of with the way we are today positioned. And I think that's the way it'll stay for the next leg of the journey, while we'll dive deeper into each of these businesses. But all of them have their challenges, but they kind of fit well together in what we're trying to do over the next decade.
Interesting. Now, can startup founders scale a company without raising funds, completely bootstrap? Or is it like you're just swimming against the waves?
I think it varies from business to business. We started with 50 lakhs is what we got in the beginning, but that 50 lakhs was not given to us on day one. It was 5 lakhs, go buy furniture, another 5 lakhs, go put an AC, then 5 lakhs or something. So we really bootstrapped this business. I don't think we achieved, again, what's your definition of scale, right? That varies, and that's
So if I had to quantify it, say like a 500 crore company, right? To achieve a 500 crore top line, can that be done bootstrapped?
It can in B2B businesses versus B2C, it's very different, right? So if you're building a consumer brand which wants to have a 500 crore top line, which is a very healthy number and a large number, you probably will take much longer if you don't have money for brand building, marketing, distribution. In a B2B business like ours, can it be done without raising capital? It can. It'll just take a little longer. But in a B2B business, you need less capital to start with, right? Versus B2C, where our sales cycle may be a little longer, but it doesn't need branding and marketing for that. It just needs physical meetings and a lot of outreach. So I think in a B2B business, yes, you can bootstrap and scale. We really raised our first institutional capital after 8-9 years, right? So we had reached, I think, 100 odd crores of revenue by then. But then getting capital took us from 100 to 1,000 in 5, right? So at some point,
scale, you gotta
you need capital to grow.
Interesting. And now that you talk about 50 lakhs, it sounds so less today in 2025 to kind of start a business of your scale. Like, it's interesting. Okay, now when you guys pitch societies about your facility management services, right? What's that one common objection that you get? That little resistance. Is there any particular objection? Because why can't societies do this on their own?
So look, societies, there are various types of societies. Some of them are large compounds with multiple buildings and clusters of buildings, and some will be high-end, ultra-luxury, boutique, big towers, right? So I think before you go pitch to a customer, you need to know that customer inside out. You got to understand what that customer or that group, that set of customers in that society really wants. How price sensitive are they? And then accordingly you tailor your pitch, right? For a society that is a large township, whether it's in Bombay, Bangalore, Navi Mumbai, Thane, you're gonna pitch, value and us driving efficiency, bringing costs down and driving value. For a society in South Bombay or, high-end building in Bangalore, it's all about hospitality. And for them, technology matters for both. But here will be hospitality, sustainability. They want everything to look like a Four Seasons or a St. Regis, etc. So I think that's your pitch. It depends on the price sensitivity of the customer, and that's accordingly the type of service we try and provide. So I think that's what it is. Why don't customers try and do this in-house? Or we've had customers who try to say we'll do this in-house. So societies we manage are not your typical 5-story building. Right. They can do it in-house. They'll be operating those or managing those buildings with 4, 5, 6 people. The larger societies need a pool operator, or they need multiple electricians, plumbers, cleaners, security guards. So having so many people on payroll is a challenge. Managing their compliances is a challenge. India, actually, the labor compliances are quite complicated. Every state has a different wage structure, code, and we are 100% compliant. So if the society wants to be fully compliant, they would need to outsource it to someone like us. Now, you do see some societies that say, hey, I don't really, compliance is secondary to me, cost is primary. In those cases, we're not able to solve that problem.
Understood. And what's the strangest facility management demand that you've received? I'm sure there are quite a few.
There are a lot of them, but for us, it's a strange demand if a large society tells us that, hey, we want to be non-compliant and pay cash, to the people directly, and you just charge a fee, right? But there are crazy demands that we've had, right? And some are not very nice, but you really understand what the real India is once you, the Bharat part of it, and those are the kind of demands we've heard.
Part of yeah. Fair enough. And how is it?
But I think that's changing. That jugaad is changing. I think the most societies or most customers who are target audience for us are wanting compliance, wanting people who are servicing them to be treated fairly and well. So I think maybe 10, 15 years ago when we were starting out, there was more of this jugaad mindset. Now I think there's a large addressable market size for facilities management where the customer is looking at this as a value add and experience for their occupant, their employees working in a factory or at a retail outlet. And that's the future in our opinion, right? Where people will value the experience we're able to provide at a facility, and the customer will value that, right? So that'll happen.
What's the difference between managing, say, a residential complex versus a corporate commercial park versus a retail mall versus a hospital? How different is?
Completely different, right? The core service is the same, but the type of customer, number one, in residential, you're dealing with multiple owners. Right. So everyone is your boss, effectively. So you're reporting to multiple people. you have to manage the dynamics of multiple customers and requests together. Commercial, typically we service grade A plus type of assets, right? The focus there has to be a lot on good reporting, good sustainability. A lot of our, office occupiers today are Gen Z and Gen Y, right? Almost, majority of them. They want an experience today. They don't want just a regular, so they want the tech. They want, that musician to come in on a Friday night and play. They want a pop-up from, pop-ups to come in or yoga on desk and Zumba on desk and stuff. So we actually have a division called SILA Engage that really does all of that for our customers. So the way we deliver and service that customer is very different. The core FM is now secondary. Now it's all about technology and experience, right? Then you go to retail. Again, deals with experience. People coming in there, they use a lot more tech on, user feel, experience and all of that. So very different. And factories is core production efficiency. You need to be efficient because in a lot of these services, especially in factories, some places were core to production. So we matter for, like, for example, there's a steel plant that we service, and our main job is to control spillage so the machine doesn't break down. So the main conveyor belts don't break down. So there's no frills. It's get the job done, and that's the KPI. So obviously different customers have different requirements, and yeah.
Is there like a golden thumb rule? Like, for example, how many people would you need to manage, say, a 45-storied commercial tower with, say, 200 offices? Is there a golden thumb rule for a certain built-up area?
There is, people say 5,000 square foot, one person, all of that. But now with the onset of tech, AI, robots, multiple things going on, there's no more thumb rules. At least we will never tell you that there's a thumb rule, because it's a very complicated solution that needs to be delivered basis what the customer wants, right? So
and the industry initially when we started was the revenue model in facilities management was manpower that you provide plus a management fee. Right. And the way we have been pitching to a lot of clients, and we hope the industry moves towards, is a solution-based revenue or fee, right? Which is per square foot, where it doesn't matter how many people you staff at the site, as long as the SLA or the service levels that you are expected to give are performed, it shouldn't matter, right? That actually makes us incentivized to use better tech, improve the training of our people to become more productive. That expands our margin, and it also makes the customer probably more efficient in what they are paying out. So I think facilities management as an industry over the next 10 years will move from a manpower plus management fee model to a solution-based model.
Can you elaborate more on the solution-based? What does that mean? Like, just dumb it down for me.
A solution-based model means that if you have a building, right, which has got 100 flats, earlier a facility manager would come and say, okay, I need 15 janitors, 5 electricians, 5 plumbers, 10 security guards, a property manager. A solution-based model will say, it doesn't matter how many people I put, I will charge you 10 rupees a square foot. Then how many security guards, how many janitors, how many electricians, how many plumbers the facility manager puts should be irrelevant to the customer. Right. What that does is it makes it, onerous on the facility manager to improve the productivity of the people at the site.
You're working backwards.
You're working backwards. You're not incentivized to keep adding people to gain revenue. Right. Here you're incentivized to improve operating efficiency.
Got it. With the same outcome.
With the same outcome.
So what this is allowing us to do is also pay people more. Right? Because earlier the customer was saying, I'll pay you for 10 guards, each guard's price 100 rupees, for example. Today they're paying 10 guards, 100, they're paying me 1,000. Now I am paying those 10 guards, 130 rupees and getting them to work a lot more and a lot more productively, use more technologies, upskilling them. The other thing the solution-based thing allows us to do is so companies of our size that have a reach, we service malls, we service offices, we service residential buildings. In residential buildings, we need more people on weekends. Malls, we need more people on weekends. Offices don't need that many people on weekends. So we're able to move our workforce around efficiently, which will bring the overall cost down, because you don't need one person every day. or so many people every day. So today, I think the shift for more of the forward-thinking, organized companies has already moved to solution. About 35% of our contracts are now fixed price. So solution-based means lump sum bill versus they're counting kitna aadmi aaya, kyun aaya, all of that.
Now, speaking of bills, and how important are those annual maintenance contracts with your clients, those AMCs?
So let me just to make it clear, what is an AMC? An AMC is typically in our business given for equipment maintenance, your AC or your diesel genset and all of that, where we come in once a quarter or once in 6 months to perform special maintenance or to do a compliance check or to fill up your fire related forms or whatever it is, right? So those AMCs are very important. They typically outsource all of that. Is that your question?
Yeah.
So we now have, and that is very relevant for us in the retail space. So what we've done over there is, given that business is growing so much, because people want a solution now. So there's a retail customer of ours, large sporting goods store, right? Big unit stores, lots of warehouses. We have a team sitting out at Trivandrum in Kerala, and they manage the AMCs for all those stores, and it's a very well-known name with large stores for all sporting goods. And we manage, that team manages the electrical, plumbing, if the chairs are broken, if the lights are broken, if the racks are broken or AC is not working, all of that stuff. And we give one bill to that customer in each state every month. Right. So we're also eliminating that trouble for these customers, because today they have got a store now in West Bengal. How are they going to find a vendor to do painting in Calcutta? Right? Impossible for these guys who have a central office in Delhi or Bombay. So I think that's the value add, and we see a big market in retail AMCs, right?
Now, when you're talking, I'm going back to the solution-based model, right? Is AI, we all know AI is disrupting, the planet and everything, but how is it actually disrupting it, right? For example, are you using drones to clean the facade? Is that a possibility? IoT sensors, how is it actually integrating into the FM business?
So there are three, to simplify it, right? There are three parts to smart buildings or, digitized buildings with technology. One is the input layer, right? So if buildings, when design your BMS or a building management system, which is integrated with IoT sensors, which has a computer-aided facility management software, which has energy metering. So these are all your input layers in a building, right? Once you have that data from the input layer, can you do anything with AI, right? Which is...
Tell them what the input layer gives, just for the customer.
So this input layer gives you data, right? And readings and information on energy consumption, efficiency of all your equipments, and the janitorial staff or the security guards checklists. It gives you all the data, right? So you have the input layer. Then you use AI to make it more efficient, right? AI needs data, right? To then learn and become more efficient. And then the third layer is what will happen in the next 10 to 15 years is buildings will have a digital twin, which will be in 3D, where you could physically be in an environment, but then remotely monitor these buildings, right? So that's the future of facilities management, and that's how AI is going to be one part of it, right? There's going to be a hardware input aspect, and then there's going to be a digital twin, which is, design based. And we've started investing a lot of our time in incorporating this in some parts. And we do see this as an exciting frontier for facilities management in the next decade.
It's already happening as we speak, right? I think we're already doing 200 cities as a whole. I think 200 cities are going to be twinned.
Yeah, so the twin is only useful when you have the input layer and the AI. Then the twin is really can be gimmicky if you don't really have what you do with seeing the twin, right? So you need to have the input or the infrastructure layer, and then the AI, which is the learning, and then the twin is really the output.
Yeah, you're so right. I think it can be gimmicky. Yeah. Just be like GTA otherwise, you know? Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Now, how should let's talk about residential complexes, right? How should the maintenance be calculated in a residential complex? Should it be the size of the apartment, or should it be unit wise,
Number
of units, or
enough
both?
court judgments on this, no? Of late, there's been. So really, I think that is now lying with the courts, because there's so many societies that have had this conflict, and rightly so, right? Some society, we have one building in Worli where one tower is large, 4,000-5,000 square foot apartments, 3 or 4 of them, and then the other, each floor has maybe 7-8 apartments now, and they share a common amenity. So it's beneficial for one tower to bill by unit and one tower to bill by square feet. So look, there's no right answer to this. To be honest, I believe it's the billing of the common areas should be done by the number of people that use it. But again, this is not for me to decide. It's for the government and the courts to decide, and the residential society body to decide. But we typically see both. When we have a total bill for the building of 100 rupees a month, let's say there are 100 units, some are doing it by square feet, some are doing it by unit.
Interesting.
It gets defined by in the AGM, by the general body of the there's a bylaw, and then but even that's kind of grey. There's a article about this every other month in the papers about this happening.
Now, when it comes to, I think fire safety is, according to me at least, the most important thing in any building, right? In any structure. Now, whose responsibility is it to ensure that there are no, fire outbreaks? Is it the facility manager's job, or is that the builder's legal responsibility? Is that a gray area as well?
No, so there's 2 parts. One is when the building gets occupation certificate, where then you can have people live in it. Up until then, it's the developer's responsibility to ensure that, as per the CFO or the Chief Fire Officer's NOC, they have complied with all the norms, installed all the equipment, left all the spaces for evacuation, drills, etc. And then after handover, it's the society who then probably outsources it to a facility manager. And if they don't, then it's the society's responsibility to ensure that the fire compliances are met.
So it's not the FM manager's responsibility.
It becomes the society then hands that responsibility to a facility manager.
You'll be answerable to the society.
To the society.
See, most organized facility managers, this is our first and most important piece that we look at, right? And when we take on a building, the first thing we look at, what's the state of the systems? And if we feel that there's even a 1% deficiency, we will write to our customer, whether it's a society or the developer still not handed over, saying, hey, fix this first, and then we'll take responsibility. Right, and then it's our responsibility to organize fire drills every 6 months.
Can there be like a legal liability on you guys if there's a fire outbreak in one of your?
So we haven't seen that as yet, because we're very careful about pointing out the problems very early on, and we're very. But we've never really had that, and we don't see a reason. So the liability can occur if people cannot, I don't know. We've not really seen that, to be honest, as yet.
And what percentage do you think of a property's value, right? Say if property is worth, say 5 crores for the audience, what percentage of the property's value should be earmarked towards the annual maintenance of that particular property?
So, this is actually a learning that we've had over the years, having a facilities management business and advisory business. We actually have a product that we've come up with called FM360, which is just to think about it as a layman, it's facilities consulting. So what the genesis of this product was that we've realized that a customer spends a very large amount on the maintenance cost of their apartment or office over the life of the asset, let's call it 50-60 years. And when you kind of put it together with the capex that they spent, it may be even 4 to 5 times the amount they spend on OPEX.
My God. Yeah. So capex is your initial purchase price.
Your initial purchase price. And then if you look at how inflation adjusts and then compounding over 50-60 years, plus major repairs for which you will also have to fork out money every 10-15 years, your OPEX in a city like, let's call it Hyderabad or Bangalore, could be 5x. In Mumbai, because capital values are higher, maybe 3x. But still, it's a significant number,
So
right?
you're saying my total maintenance cost towards that apartment over 50 years would be 4 to 5x of my initial purchase price, obviously adjusting it with inflation.
Correct. Adjusting with inflation, keeping in account major repairs that will go in, all of that. And we've we've modeled this out to see these numbers. And so what we're trying to tell developers, and we're working on about 2.5 crore square feet right now of projects where we're getting involved at the design stage and doing what's called OPEX or facilities consulting, where we're helping developers look at areas where they can design differently, spec differently, so that when someone like us comes in to maintain it, we can be way more efficient.
Interesting. So early design, that's pre-construction, if it's designed well, it can reduce the actual maintenance costs.
It can definitely reduce the maintenance
Can you give me an
cost.
example of what design will reduce what?
So materials used, right? Where, there are some materials that help a building age well. There are some materials that need constant maintenance. The type of facade materials you use, right? That could have an impact on cost of
And that
maintenance.
depends region to region. So in Mumbai, what material would you?
So like using a lot of wood, using natural stone, maybe high on capex, but much lower on maintenance cost, right? So that's a material that if you do use and dry clad buildings with natural stone, your maintenance may be lower versus using paint, where the material or the maintenance is much more over time. On your systems, right? If you use energy efficient systems, motion and IoT based lighting systems, the capex may be higher, but then over time, you will save money on electricity bills and utility bills. On the space planning aspect, right? Where if a developer designs their space optimally and sees the amenities or functionality of a building correctly, they may be able to optimize on back of house areas versus amenity areas. Another aspect which we've done a lot of work on is on digitizing buildings, right? So if you use the right input layers that we spoke about, which is IoT sensors, the right BMS software, or the right facility software, it can make your facility management team more efficient because they have the right data and heat maps of a building, right? So there are various touch points at the design stage which we can work with developers on, and we have been over the last 6 to 9 months across cities in India. And the initial reports and the initial findings are that there's definitely value add, which is why we're quite excited about FM360 as a service. And we hope, all developers, instead of just hiring an architect, MEP consultant, structural consultant, and interior designer, also hires a facility management consultant. Whether it's us or not doesn't matter, because we do think that will help improve the operating efficiency of an asset.
That's interesting. I think most developers, at least 10 years ago, wouldn't even think about it, right? Because they're on the service business. You construct a building and then you're out in a couple of years. This is very interesting. What is your take on the common areas as well, like the lobby space?
So that's exactly what I was getting to. So one is the cost. The second is the actual usage of space, right? And the experience. So I think that's the other value add. I think we've got we're amongst the largest service providers for residential space in the country. Right. So we have assets of all types, shapes, sizes, and classes. Now, give you a simple example. A swimming pool in a city like Bombay or Chennai, if it's east facing, right, no one uses the pool in the first half of the day. People don't think about that, right? We've actually seen that we've seen the data from all our existing projects. Now, if you design that means you're not using it, or you need to design it with a roof, with something covering it, right? So I think we've really learned. We've seen some of the best buildings either under spec a gym, or get the sizing wrong, or the lobbies are too big, or too much AC, or too much or too less HVAC capacity. So I think that's a big piece where we're actually using real data from our current projects and real learnings to make it usable. Facade access, big problem, right? You may make a cool looking facade. The problem is if the access is tough, you're not going to be able to clean it.
The other thing is now tastes and preferences of people are changing, right? Where 10 years ago, you had very few deliveries a day. Today, you may have 400-500 deliveries per day. And for that, you need to have two-wheeler parking, right? For that, you need to have at the design stage, forecasted what the trend will be not over the next 3-4 years, but over the next 30-40 years, right? EV charging. Back in the day, it was negligible as a number. We forecast that it'll become at least 10 to 15% of cars parked in a residential building and maybe even more. So how do you plan for that? So there are a lot of things that tastes and preferences of the end consumer are changing, which we're able to see across 300 million square feet and then give our opinions. And we're not saying that we're the only ones who know this, right? Developers are also very experienced and they have a lot of these data points across millions of square feet they've developed. But we bring in a lens of an operator, right? Which I think some of our existing clients are valuing. And then that really gets a better product for the consumer, where you have an operator's lens, a developer's lens, and then customer satisfaction.
You have so much like real life data.
Yeah, it's about how you're using the data, right? I think most of the large developers have a lot of this data, but I don't whether they have the time to actually put that data in a structured manner and then analyze it and build reports. And what fits in Worli does not fit in Thane in terms of how many EV chargers you need, and so you really need to benchmark type of building size and then even location, city, all of that stuff. So I think that's where someone like us comes in, and
so
we think we add value.
FM360 is a purely B2B play for you guys?
Purely
B2B. And when do you guys launch FM360?
We launched about 6-8 months ago. And it's early days, early start, but it's definitely a product now. In our overall service basket, it may not be the largest service offering, but it's one that we're really excited about because we actually think it's a process innovation, right? There's no one else doing this in the market today, right? So we're pioneering facility management consulting, and we think there's a value add, and we hope others do it so that it becomes a market norm.
If you ask me personally, I think we're delivering the most value per buck in this service. Right? Other services, everyone needs it, and you need to hire a facility manager. You can hire us, you can hire CBR, you can hire JLL, you can hire the rest, right? Here, I think we are actually adding a lot.
It's almost like you're creating a new niche with this one, because like how developers need an RCC consultant. Why not an FM consultant?
And you know what? We've had a over 90% conversion rate. It takes some explaining, but then when we show case studies and existing reports of other projects that we've done, there is value, and I think a lot of developers are now becoming sophisticated and wanting to give their end occupant, a good value added or a good journey when it comes to their operating costs, because gone are the days where a developer thinks about handing over to a society and forgetting about the building. Right. I think that mindset has also changed, where developers today care about their brand, reputation, and customer journey even after they've given away the apartment.
Right. So you just want to pry into that a little more. Do you see the new Bharat overall, like the construction industry, the real estate industry of the new Bharat, actually now care more about maintenance, right? I think because if you look at a structure, like say I'm assuming a concrete life structure is about 70 odd years, developers first 5 years they construct the building, but I think the remaining 65 years, which is about 93% of the product life cycle, only depends on how well the structure is maintained.
So I think I'll take it with a different spin. I think the customer today cares about experience, right? I think there are many developers who will deliver in a great location a great product, right? But what is the experience that community is able to give the customer, right? Is what this will move towards. Now, facilities or good facility management is one part of that experience, right? Community engagement is another part of that experience. Using technology to make your life easier at home is another part of the experience. So I think the next wave of how developers are going to look at development as a whole is, how is that end customer's experience going to be, right? So if you look in the office, the WeWork generation, right? What did that do to the office, right? What did co-working do to the office infrastructure? It made it all about experience. And right, that's why flex office is 10-15% of absorption every year and it could grow, the same thing might happen in residential, where the developers will have to think about customer experience and journey post handover and how they kind of interact with the space that they've developed, and facilities is one part of it, but there are other parts of that experience.
Now, also, do you see a well-maintained building naturally having a higher resale value in future?
For sure.
There are several examples right behind us, so in Worli where we are, right? For sure, I don't want to give names, so there are several examples of buildings that are well maintained that are or were not as well maintained and are now well maintained with certain upgrades that are trading at like a 20-30% premium per square foot.
Naturally so,
Yeah.
This one's for you, Sahil. So how did you guys get into construction and real estate development?
So as have many things in our journey, it happened quite organically. We have an advisory business, as we spoke about, where we provide capital providers diligence services. So when an investor wants to invest with a developer, they would come to someone like us to do the technical diligence on the cost, approval, schedule, and then we do post-investment monitoring as a service. And we were in 2018-19 representing most of the capital providers in the country. What happened is that post IL&FS's crash, really, the real estate market went into a bit of a liquidity crisis where the lenders could not further support projects. There were developers whose balance sheets were quite stretched. And in that came the opportunity where we were able to identify an opportunity in residential. It was going through a 5-6 year slowdown from 2012 to 18-19, and I'm talking specifically on the Mumbai market. And we probably looked much smarter because COVID came and then residential really took off. But that's kind of when we got into development and thought of getting into development, where we saw an opportunity to pick up stressed assets, which were on the books of these NBFCs and investors, problem solve for them, and start our development journey without that much capital.
It's more like opportunity driven, I would say.
It was very opportunistic to start with, and I think it was good timing, but also what worked is that we did not require as much capital to start with, because these NBFCs needed really a problem solver, which is what we were able to do. Now we've obviously deployed a lot more capital into projects and gone ahead and bought lands, but the start was I wouldn't call it bootstrap, but it was in that kind of nature.
So how do you identify a good opportunity, right? Like, for instance, how do you know that you should enter a particular project? Is it only data and feasibility reports, financial feasibility reports, or do you as an entrepreneur also trust your gut feel? You know what I mean? Do you mix emotion with logic?
I think there is a bit of gut feel, but I think the evolution is that it should be less of it and it should be more unemotional. But I would be lying if I say that getting into development and wanting to be a developer was not emotional. It was. And now when we look at projects, it's very data driven, feasibilities, micro market studies, inventory days outstanding of other supply. And now data has been quite democratized in real estate, right? With RERA coming in, with many platforms who give you registration data, there's a ton of data that can help you make decisions. So we use a lot of that. There's a little bit of pulse and feeling, and that's allowed us to pick where we're going over the next 5 to 6 years, but it's a bit of both.
Right. And what areas do you focus on? Primarily Sobo?
Yeah, so we started out in our home market, which is I think was the right thing to do, where we took on 1, then 2, now 4, 5 projects, but it was in a region or micro market that we understood well from a sales and distribution standpoint and customer preference standpoint. Now we're having delivered few projects, we are looking at other parts of Mumbai, but more specifically on the commercial side, not residential side. So
Why is that? Why more on the commercial?
Why commercial? The data that we're seeing is that the demand side for small offices is quite strong, and there's very little supply of small office inventory. When I say small office, I mean offices from 750 square feet to 3,000-4,000 square feet, and which are for sale. So there are large office complexes coming out in Mumbai, which are just for lease, which are owned by large listed developers or REITs. So we're playing in a niche segment of strata sale office, which we really like. We'll continue to do opportunistic residential on the luxury side, but I think our next 3-4 projects will most likely be commercial office.
You're focusing on strata sale, not on the leasing aspect of things, and not gonna. I think SM REIT is going to also bolster the commercial real estate.
SM REIT is early in the journey. I think that our balance sheet doesn't allow us today to own these assets and lease them over time. As a developer, I think what's really important, and we've seen this through our advisory business and many other businesses, is that understanding one's balance sheet is incredibly important, and what stage of the journey you're in and the risks you should take is based on your balance sheet strength. And I think right now we need to build and sell to build a larger balance sheet before we can think of owning and operating assets going into a REIT.
Now, this is one question that I ask every developer, right? So I'll just have to ask you this. What's one thing that you really love about Mumbai real estate in particular? And also one thing that you hate about Mumbai real estate?
What I love about Mumbai real estate is that if you build quality supply, there will be a demand for it. The price the market will determine, but there are very few markets in the world or in India for sure where there's a strong demand for various types of product. We've seen it in our few-year journey that the demand side is super strong in Mumbai, and that's a huge opportunity, right? So what's not to love about being in a place? In life, you got to be swimming in the right ponds, right? And Mumbai real estate is one large pond, which is exciting. What I don't like about it is, and generally about real estate, is that every project has its own design and approval process, which is something that takes some learning. We're getting better at it. It needs patience. I wish approvals happen in a single window clearance, but that's not the case. That also, though, in a way is a positive for developers where the barriers to entry then have become a little higher, right? So for every problem, there's actually an opportunity. But we're excited about real estate development.
I must have asked this question to over 30 developers, and I'm not even joking. All 30 have actually similar answers, at least when it comes to what they hate about Mumbai real estate: approvals. And it's strange, but I think we are working towards.
But I'll tell you, all 30
in all states.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, all 30 will regret it, maybe, and this is a contrarian view, if they become really easy, and then there'll be 300 developers.
Barrier to
maybe
entry.
Maybe 3,000,
right?
So there are barriers to entry. So the problems
Interesting
are
point, actually. Yeah, there is barrier to entry. I think a lot of... I was at this event, right? And I saw this 21-year-old guy. He was a civil engineer, just graduated. And he's like, I asked him, and his dad was a developer. He's like, listen, Mayank, I don't want to get into development. I don't want to get into real estate. I'm going to start an AI firm. And I asked him, I'm like, dude, you have such a good background. Why don't you just help your dad? He's like, Mayank, it takes me 5 years to construct a meaningful tower in Mumbai. In 5 years, I can probably turn my AI tech company into a unicorn, right? And there's no third party governance. I think a lot of Gen Zs are not getting into real estate only because of this whole notion that the approvals are so difficult.
Yeah. But in general in business, right? And that's one friend you met who thinks this can happen in 5 years. I have a very different view, right? I don't think any business is 0 to 5 years. I think if you look at a business, you have to look at it as a marathon, a long journey. There will be short sprints in that journey. There'll be pace setting in that journey, and there'll be, just grinding in that journey, right? So I think business has to be looked at, over decades, whether it's development, AI, or something else. And that's how I think how Rushabh and I believe, and we've built SILA, right? We believe this is going to be here for many decades, and there will be ups and downs, but the grind has to be on.
Focus on value and not valuation.
It takes 1,000 days, at least 3 years to even. So someone had come and told me, I think this was when we were in year 3 or year 4 of our business, and then I went and told an elderly gentleman one day saying, we built a business. He's like, listen, this is still a project, right? And over at that time, I was like, I didn't take what he said too well. But you actually, when you look back now, you realize that it takes so long, right? And it's a marathon and not a sprint. It takes so long to build a business that's fundamentally strong and of quality. Obviously, there are great stories all over the world of people who've gone, raised a lot of money, successfully done it, zero, grow. These are great, but those are 1 in a million, right? I think the majority of good businesses take 15 years to build, 15, 20 years. I think we're kind of in the early years of our journey as well.
Test cricket, not T20.
Exactly.
Interesting. Now, what is one thing, Sahil, that you hate about, or rather, what's one thing that's very challenging about redevelopment in general, right? And what's your biggest expense as a developer in a redevelopment project?
So redevelopment is a big opportunity in Mumbai. A lot of these buildings were built 50, 60, 70 years ago and need either heavy structural repair or just need to be redeveloped. The opportunity is that the occupant of that building, the landlord and the developer all get to win, right? Where the occupant gets a new house, the landlord gets monetization, and the developer gets to build a project. So I think redevelopment is a positive for Mumbai real estate. The challenge is that, it's not about just going in like cities like Hyderabad and Bangalore where you buy land and you can start the next day, right? There's a gestation period between convincing the occupants, the landlord, getting the approvals, and that's a long cycle, right? So that's a challenge. But it's getting better over time. The biggest cost in a project in Mumbai is always going to be land, right? Your land cost, and if you layer on government premiums, so the cost of FSI is north of 50%, and that I think will continue in a dense metropolis like Mumbai. But the cost of construction is inflating, and those are things that are more manageable. But the cost of land and FSI is always going to be the largest one in Mumbai. In another market which we develop in, which is Alibaug, their cost of land is less than 20% of revenue, right? So there you're not worried as much about land cost, but there the construction cost is quite high, right? So every market has a different dynamic. In Mumbai, it's land is your largest cost, and in somewhere like Alibaug, construction cost is an anomaly. It's very high.
Very, very high, and the material cost as well, right?
Yeah, there's its own ecosystem in Alibaug, which we've learned a lot about.
Learned the hard way, and I mean, kudos to you guys for actually completing a project in Saral in Alibaug. I think fantastic. That's Inner Circle, right?
Yeah. No, it was. So we entered Alibaug about 6-7 years ago. And the thought process behind Inner Circle was that most people knew Alibaug as homes for the very wealthy, right? Who would spend buy 5-6 acres of land and build a what's called a wadi, where they would have a large house. But the way we thought about it is that why can't Alibaug be accessible to someone who has a budget of, let's say, 1 to 2 crores? And that's what Inner Circle did. Was
Democratized Alibaug.
Exactly. I hope we did, but I think condos in Alibaug was something no one had done. Fortunately for us, the first two phases of the project have done very well. We have launched phase 3, and now I think we will see more condos in Alibaug. That may not necessarily be a great thing because the infrastructure also needs to catch up. But I think in India, usually infrastructure is a lag on the development, and it'll happen there too.
The first time I saw Inner Circle, I thought you guys were before the market. Like, I think, beyond your time, but I think y'all, I think y'all read the market really well, right? COVID happened, and then this is then it suddenly became the perfect product market fit.
It was good. You get lucky sometimes, and sometimes you use data and try and forecast. I think there was a combination of both for us.
Right, interesting. And also, coming back to your cost of FSI issue, or rather your answer, is that Mumbai does have the highest premiums, right? It's, I think, 5,500 rupees per square foot averaged out in Mumbai, which is like 50x of Bangalore. 50x of Bangalore. That's pretty ridiculous.
There's a land parcel that we bought in Lower Parel area. Our government premiums are over 50% our land cost. So,
and as much as your construction costs.
So the numbers, every project is different, but premiums have become a big number in looking at the cost to complete of a project, which is something we underwrite, and it is also required for a city like Mumbai to collect premiums and then spend on infrastructure, which is also going to help development of the city, right? So, as long as it's an equitable distribution of, the monies going in and the right infrastructure being built, I think it's good for the overall ecosystem.
What would be the construction cost difference between constructing a 20-story building versus an 80-story tower?
It's significant. So there'll be 2-3 variables. The amount of steel per square foot that you will need to put in a 20-story building, maybe 4.5 to 5 kilos, and in an 80-story tower, it may even be 6 to 8 kilos, depending on design, and that's a big number. The concrete coefficient will be different, and then the timeline, right? So time is a big cost because you're usually financing this with some sort of loans or debt. So I think the cost, it's very hard to give a number. It varies project to project and your cost of capital and design, but it'll be a significant number.
And I think the difficulties in regulatory challenges as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, for an 80-story building, your fire norms will be different. You need civil aviation clearance. You have a high-rise committee that you go to in Mumbai. So there'll be many more processes to be followed for a 80-story structure.
Now, we know like Sahil has been focusing a lot on South Mumbai and Alibaug when it comes to construction. Rushabh, what is this one location outside South Mumbai, all right? Within Mumbai though, and outside South Mumbai, that you are most bullish on in terms of investments? Where should the average layman invest to see better returns in Mumbai? One location you're bullish on.
I mean, I'm no expert, to be honest. I run the services business for the most part, but I look at Alibaug, areas around that, given the amount of infrastructures being built, and there are obviously a bunch of projects coming up there. I think that has the potential to become the next Powai. With the access, with the bridges being built and the connectivity. If you look at, people say it's the Hamptons and all of that stuff, but I actually think it can be a place where people live and commute to Bombay for work.
I think the reverse is going to happen now, where you'll see people go there during Monday to Friday, right? And then on the weekends come back to Mumbai, I think.
There are few people that already do it.
It's going to happen. Once the social infrastructure improves, hospitals, more retail, restaurants, which I think will happen, right? It's a little bit of a chicken egg situation, but it'll happen. We're quite optimistic on Alibaug as a market. And in Mumbai, as much as we started in South Mumbai, I think that Mumbai real estate in the next few years, because of the infrastructure, is going to significantly change. I see a world in which there'll be 10 to 15 micro markets in Mumbai which trade at over $1 lakh a foot. few years ago, there were three, right? Where, it was Altamont Road, Carmichael Road, Malabar Hill, and then Pali Hill was catching up. Juhu, Versova. So anything that's within 5 minutes from a coastal road exit or entry could be a six-figure number, right? And I think that's how the delta between South Mumbai and North or suburbs is definitely shrinking. And I think that's, if I had to pick locations in Mumbai, it would be anything within 5 minutes of a coastal road entry and exit will outperform.
I'm generally very bullish on cluster redevelopment, and I think that's the need of the hour in densely populated cities like Mumbai. But why hasn't cluster redevelopment really taken off in Mumbai real estate circles?
So I think there are 2-3 reasons, and we have seen some takeoff. It's a matter of time. It's not a policy that's been out for 20-30 years. It's a policy that's been out for a few years. It takes time. But sometimes I've seen that developers also try and over optimize, which is if you've got 2-3 plots which cross 4,000 square meters, no, but I can add a 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, because FSI is that magic potion that developers love, and I think at some point you need to have the clarity to stop and say that, listen, I form my cluster. Now, even if there are 2-3 other buildings who want to join, it's fine. This is done. And I think that may be one reason. The other could be even, settling and convincing all the occupants or tenants of a cluster. It's not easy. There is, project could have 500-600 people to convince. So these things take time, but I think it'll, streamline itself over the next few years. The government policy is favorable, that it makes it viable to do these clusters. It'll happen. It'll just take some time.
Sahil, from a design perspective, what is one non-negotiable, right, that you would want in all of your residential projects? At a project level, not at an apartment level, like, common amenities.
So as I said, customer experience is going to lead the way developers make the initial plan, right? So you need to work through all the parts of the customer experience, whether it's amenities, community spaces, functionality, tech. So I think developers will need to lead with the customer experience, not the customer alone, just the experience of the customer in how they plan and design buildings. And I think that is something that will happen in the future. It's already started happening. But I think that's something that we would lead with when we're thinking about, we're developing a 44-story building in Malabar Hill right now. And we did a lot of market research on how our customer would interact with the space, what are the types of amenities that customer would value, and what are the amenities that is less preferable to have, right? So I think most developers are starting to do more of this. We're still a young developer. They're much more sophisticated and larger developers than us. But I think the customer experience is going to be super key.
So coming to, luxury real estate, like you're doing something in Malabar Hill, you said some, as per your data, right? There are some amenities that those people will prefer and some amenities they won't prefer. So what are those amenities?
I think the whole, again, being sportsmen and sport is, and wellness and health, fitness is super important to us. I think this whole trend of wellness and health is a big one in the luxury market where, people have that disposable income to spend on longevity and improving lifestyle and fitness and health. So I think spending on not only a gym, but even wellness areas in a building are going to be increasingly popular. And I think the customer will demand that.
I think our data from our FM business, which is why we built the FM 360 piece, gives us, we get a lens on what's used and what's not used, right? A lot of the stuff in terms of limo service and concierge and all that is not used. So at all. Right,
okay,
and typically what you have is never. When the developer sells it, the society comes in, they kick it out on day one, cut the cost, and the most expensive buildings in the city have that, right? So I think we have a reasonable idea, given the data that we have, on what is really going to be used in the long run, whether it's space or type of service. And I think that's the one thing we'll do when we define this is the experience and when we
I
design.
was just going to ask you next, like, what's the most useless amenity in a luxury project? I think I got my answer.
Amphitheaters, rock climbing walls.
Never used.
Never, I mean,
There are
Just
lots
to
of
add
things
up
just
30 plus amenities. It's
correct.
Just like,
Yeah, and we have this amenity benchmarking system where we benchmark amenities and how much they're used in different micro markets, and some of the things that people have been installed in the past are just useless.
absolutely useless, right? Now, similarly, like from a design perspective, again, what is one non-negotiable that a Sahil would want in his own apartment?
so, I mean, it's the basics of good design: light, ventilation, high ceilings. These are the basics. But I think if you have to, go one layer deeper, it's how you're able to have efficient planning of all the areas. When you're spending a lakh a foot plus in the luxury market, you don't want wasted space in your apartment with long corridors and passages, right? So I think from my perspective, if I look at myself as a value buyer, not a developer. If I have to pay the value buyers, I'll make sure space planning, light, ventilation, the basics are in order.
Right. Now, thank you so much, guys, for doing this. Just before we part off, just one final question is, what is the future for SILA? Like, where do you see yourself in just 3 years? I know it's a marathon, but like short-term plan.
In 3 years, as Sahil said, I think the development business will have another journey. The services business, we've got a facilities business which is of reasonable scale. We will continue to grow that business linearly, 20-25% a year, and build on a lot of non-linear services, be it MHE, which is our material handling business, or FM360, to give us that non-linear growth, right? Higher margin non-linear growth where we're selling to the same customer, right? So that's one thing, and continuously look for inorganic opportunities with our core business, right? We look at a lot of deals here and there, and we've done one acquisition in 22 which has gone well, and we look to do that because we think this business has the opportunity to bolt on a lot more companies and businesses onto this platform. So that's the vision for the next 3 to 5 years, and that's the plan. Let's just hope it goes to plan. So
And on the development side, I think just more of what we've been doing. So 1 or 2 projects at a time. I don't think we're at the scale yet to look at more aggressive growth. Want to focus on balance sheet strength. Want to focus on capability building. Want to focus on delivering these few projects that we have. We've already delivered a couple of them, and steady. I think real estate development is a multi-decade or generational business. It's not like your friend's AI company, 1 to 5 years. So as long as we have the patience, which we do, and we're excited about it, I think we'll just chip away.
Interesting. Thank you so much, guys, for doing this. And by the way, congratulations for your 40 under 40. Where are my manners?
No, thank you. It's not mine. It's both of us and a strong team. But yeah, thank you so much.
Totally crushing it, guys. Thank you again for doing this.
thank you.
Thank you.